You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. It is Monday, October 24th, 2022. It's also known around the world as Diwali Day, National Accounting Day, National Food Day. Ironically enough, National Food Day is about healthy food, immediately followed by National Bologna Day. It's also the United Nations Day. And big thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every morning. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. We are here live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you're in Clubhouse, you can participate on the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment or question on the story that's been presented. This morning, we're actually going to jump right into our first correspondent, Mr. Rico Lamitte. Rico's the dopest dad on the street. He is an athlete turned activist, and probably most important role of all, the dad, the dope dad himself. What do you have for us today, Rico? How is Zozo? How's your morning? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. My morning is going pretty well. Got a little bit of a respiratory illness going around the household, but gonna make it through. Happy Diwali, everybody out there. My headline today is from the Washington Post by Ellie Silverman. Sentenced to 40 years, Biden's marijuana pardons left plenty people behind. That's not even the, hold on one second. Fuck that up. Sorry, y'all. All right, here it goes. Sentenced to 40 years, Biden's marijuana pardons left these guys behind, and that's why they're protesting it today. War on drugs. What is it good for? Capitalism and maintaining the status quo. 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, protesters plan to gather outside the White House in support of some odd 2,800 incarcerated individuals still behind bars for nonviolent cannabis-related offenses. We've said it many times here before on High at 9 News, but it deserves mentioning again. There is no one currently in federal prison for simple possession of cannabis. Although President Joe Biden's announcement earlier this month was a positive rhetorical exercise, sure to move drug policy needle in the right direction, nobody was released because of it. The pardon announcement was most sobering for those who spent up to decades locked up for cannabis-related convictions, and the White House took a premature victory lap for a claimed 6,500 people nationwide with federal convictions for simple possession on their records since 1992, even stating the pardon would also apply to pre-92 convictions. But the government doesn't have data from before then, so who knows? If they were serious about righting the wrongs of the failed illegal and racist war on drugs, they'd have covered nonviolent offenders locked up for cultivation, distribution, and conspiracy. These are the actions large corporations have commercialized and profit from today. This is what tonight's civil disobedience in Washington, D.C. is all about. Organizers say that they're motivated by a gap between Biden's campaign promises and the recent proclamation. But the White House insists the pardons are indeed the fulfillment of his 2020 campaign promise, even going so far as to responding to a WAPO comment request with a spokesperson pointing out to a quote in Biden's 2020 website reading, "No one should be in prison for the use of illegal drugs alone." Spicy semantics indeed. It remains unclear, other than for political reasons and fast approaching midterm elections, as to why the toothless lip service from the White House was given when all involved knew damn well who would and who would not be covered. Either way, it's behind tonight's protest is DC Marijuana Justice, community group fighting for equal rights in Washington, D.C., cannabis users, growers, and their families, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, a global youth-led network dedicated to ending the war on drugs, and the Last Prisoner Project, an organization that says it believes that no one should remain incarcerated for cannabis offenses. The orgs co-signed and sent a letter requesting Biden use his executive authority to actually release at least 100 folks incarcerated on federal cannabis charges, arguing there's thousands serving long-term sentences for activities involving far less than what dispensaries routinely handle on a daily basis. As of February 3rd this year, 37 states, 3 territories, and the District of Columbia allow medical cannabis use. 19 legally offer adult sales and consumption. Voters in Arkansas, Maryland, Missouri, North Dakota, and South Dakota will soon decide whether they'll be jumping on the legalization bandwagon too. It don't matter if you love or hate any of the organizations putting on tonight's protests. In my eyes, anyone against the cause that they're standing for should have no place in our industry. Period. I was told to do that this morning. If I could be there with all the good folks in Pennsylvania Ave tonight, I most definitely would, but I can't, so I'll be cheering you on from a distance. I hope that you all stay safe and sending good vibrations and nothing but love over here from the West Coast. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street. You're watching High at 9 News.
Gretchen, are you going to this protest, Gretchen?
I am. Once the show ends, I am headed out there. We're supposed to wear green, so I got my green on. We're also headed over to the DNC later this afternoon since the Democrats aren't doing shit, which I find hilarious that they're going to the DNC instead of the RNC. But yeah, we're going to be doing this all day.
I mean, the RNC is a lot closer to go to. The DNC is kind of like out of the way.
Well, we're going to the DNC, the thing on the their it's not that out of the way. It's right on the hill. What are you talking about?
It's DNC is like way like out in the vast outscapes of DC.
Okay, I don't know what DNC you're hanging out at, but this one is
it's
two
the,
blocks.
It's the one
from
that has
RNC.
the big D.
All right. Anyway, yes, there.
I like to go to the places where the big D's are.
I know Redman.
I hang out there. That's my spot.
We're gonna head over with Redman when he's on his way down from New York now with his group of folks, and so it's gonna be I've been told to be ready for civil disobedience. So who knows? We'll see if this will be my first time getting arrested.
Are you
all right, Gretchen? We're impressed. We're impressed, Gretchen. We're impressed over here.
Oh my God!
What are they gonna arrest you for, Gretchen?
I would love to.
I don't know. I'm sure something or other.
There's
going to be a lot of minorities in front of the White House. I'm sure they'll find a reason to arrest them.
Oh boy.
So Rico, do we know why? What other charges he has that would not be able to be released with Biden's quote unquote pardon?
With the gentleman that was mentioned in the story.
Yes.
Nothing.
Because no one is in federal jail for possession of cannabis.
Yeah.
Simple possession.
Yes.
Right,
everyone
that's in
the federal
in the story was like he's locked up on distribution and cultivation charges.
Everyone that's in federal prison is locked up for massive grows, massive manufacturing, massive distribution, anything like that. But no one is in federal prison for just simple possession.
Right. Correct.
So last week when we had the Pot Brothers at Law on, they covered an article about cannabis in public in federal parks. And I thought it was really interesting in this conversation because, you know, how we had talked about how the pardons really only counted as everything before the pardon. I was thinking, what an interesting way to have a protest where if everyone had their legal possession limit and we all went into a federal park together, into a public park together as a part of the protest, not smoking, not breaking that law, right? Just possessing our legal limit and having a protest in that regard, because essentially they'd have to arrest all of us because technically you're not supposed to possess cannabis on federal land. And so my thought was like, what if we did a protest where everyone had their legal possession limits in a state that it was legal and we all went in protesting like all of us are possessing cannabis in this property. Like we need to have this not be something that's just the pardons. Like, this needs to be something that is across the board. I'm not sure how far that article has gone as far as the efforts to make it so that you could actually possess in public parks, or in federal parks. But
that is not happening. That is not happening.
Possessing in federal parks is if there's federal legalization. I mean, I think what you're describing, Nicole, can definitely happen today at a rally at the White House, which is federal land. So if people have cannabis on them at this event, it's a definite possibility.
I just want to see everybody like throw their baggies in the air instead of throwing their lighters in the air. Everyone throw your Ziplocs in the air.
I think it was
Ziplocs. Mylar, all the Mylar boys.
We have half the people in Clubhouse saying that they can hear sound and half of them not. Can we get somebody from there say something in the back channel there? I have no idea.
I know that at Trump's inauguration years ago, they at 4:20 into a speech, a bunch of folks lit up on the mall. Nobody was arrested. They did not go after them, but they easily could have. And that's always a concern about cannabis rallies around the district.
Gretchen, I hope you don't get arrested, but also Phil.
I hope she does. I would love it.
No, I don't hope anybody. I don't hope anybody gets arrested. That's like fucked up. I don't hope anybody goes through that. So I wouldn't hope that on an enemy. And I actually like Gretchen, so like I don't hope you get arrested.
I'm
a lot of protesters do it to make a point.
I'm a little concerned about where they're saying prepare for civil disobedience. So I don't know what they're planning to do.
Well, I'll tell you what, the people that are behind this are the people that are the same people that thought it was a good idea to go and light up a joint in Jeff Sessions' office when he was still a senator prior to him being the attorney general. So I definitely expect some crazy antics from the activists out there in DC.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of protesters and a lot of big time activists, they get arrested for clout. So
yeah,
if you're trying to clout chase tonight, Gretchen, it is your time.
What a fun fun clout effort.
Make sure my dog. Gretchen, make sure that you've been stretching, because when they put your hands behind your back, you want to make sure that you've stretched.
I do yoga and I'm double jointed. I'm good.
Oh, all right. You're gonna be all right. That was an awesome story.
Did anybody else's eyes just get really big about Gretchen other than me?
All right. That was a fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Rico. Coming up next, she's a cannabis consultant, an industry veteran, a bullshit buster, and a general all self-proclaimed data bitch, boasting over 13 years in the regulated market, but with deep roots in the legacy industry because she did some time for a cannabis crime. That's right, it's none other than the Nicole West.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Jason. Super interested in my story today because this is something that I've been following for a while. Let me just start by saying the testing debacle and the potency wars have got to fucking stop. Literally, it is causing the biggest issue with our ability to evolve as an industry, that everybody is chasing the highest THC as a part of their product. It is so inefficient to find quality medicines that you're looking for. That's not actually what you're looking for. And much like chasing clout, you're going to get absolutely nothing out of it. Okay. So my headline today is actually coming out of the Cannabis Business Times, which is the cannabis pre-roll purchaser accuses Jeter of alleged THC mislabeling in a class action lawsuit. So for those of you who are not familiar, Jeter is a pre-roll company here in the state of California. I know they've expanded out into other markets. They are one of the leading infused pre-roll companies, if not the leading pre-roll over the past 2 years. Month over month, they have literally been growing and growing and growing. They are two different versions. They've got regular pre-rolls that are dipped and then coated in like a keef product. And then they have little tiny baby ones. They call them baby Jeters. Now, these products have been dominating the market. Like, I'm talking about dominating. And every time I go sit down to some business development meeting, every business owner somehow has to drop, well, what about Jeters? They're doing this. And I swear to you, if you say that to me in my next meeting with you, I will lose my mind, because here's a perfect example of what was about to happen to Jeters. And I'm kind of blown away that it took this long, but the independent testing is out. Okay. So there's a developing story in regards to a class action lawsuit that alleges Dreamfields Brands and Med for America Inc., which make and sell and market Jeters brand pre-rolls, have labeled the products as having higher THC percentages than the products actually contain. The law firm Dovell and Lunar represents plaintiff Jasper Centeno and Blake Wilson, who both are compliant businesses in the state of California and have purchased Jeters products over the years. The lawsuit refers to a report by industry publication Weed Week published in September, which states that the 2 diamond-infused pre-rolls tested by the news outlet implied THC inflation of 70% to 100% and 28% to 42%, respectively. These were 2 of the 9 pre-rolls tested at independent labs that have been vocal about the issues of potency inflation in the cannabis industry. Jeter was one of the 2 companies that agreed to a second test by Weed Week and reimbursed the editor and the publisher, Alex Halperian, for the cost of the products. The complaint points to Weed Week's findings that both Jeter pre-rolls tested allegedly contained higher THC percentage than that fall outside of the 10% margin of error permitted by the state of California. So according to the state of California, you can have a plus minus 10% by ratio, right? So if your product said that it was 50 milligrams, you have 5 milligram variable. So you can be up to 55 or as low as 45. So the complaint states, for example, the Baby Jeter Fire Diamond pre-roll infused 5-pack was listed having 46% THC on the label. Independent lab testing showed, however, that the actual THC potency of the product was substantially lower, between 23 and 27% THC, rather than the 46 as stated. Thus, the THC content was overstated by 70 to 100%, substantially more than that 10% margin. The lawsuit also alleges that if the defendants were to test the products with an independent lab rather than the one that they went with, they would have learned the THC content of their products were substantially overstated time and time again. George Kellert and Landu Labs, which tested the products for Jeter, told Weed Week regarding the news outlet finding that the Fire OG product that a review of provided COAs shows moisture content analysis was handled differently by Landu Labs. Thus, the final results were officially lowered. Now, moisture content is a big conversation, and this is going to go back to our reality of not having standardized methods for testing, and there being such a broad spectrum of testing methods that are acceptable by the state of California and by other states throughout the U.S. The lawsuit states that the primary reason for the consumer's purchase of cannabis product is for the psychological and medicinal effects of those psychological and medicinal effects largely driven by the THC product, which, as I stated in the beginning, is a part of the problem. In a prepared statement provided by the CBT, the attorney Chris Choro and Dovell Lunar said consumers are willing to pay more for cannabis products with higher THC content and expect to pay less for cannabis with lower THC content. Now, I'm super interested to see how this actually shakes out. I think this is a problem across the board. I've seen multiple independent testing happening recently, and I think that this is happening time and time again. There's a couple companies out there right now that are doing this, testing companies that are doing this for fun as a part of their marketing plan. One of them is out here in Long Beach, and they're just going and pulling shit and retesting it and retesting it and retesting it. And so I'm curious to see how many other products end up like this. I'm also curious to see or know how much of this is actually going to affect Jeter's bottom line and how much people are still going to purchase the product if they're held to a stricter regulation in regards to testing. And I do think this is going to start a lot more people doing a double test. I'm Nicole West, getting high at 9 with y'all.
Jeters are the dollar store hot dogs of the weed industry.
Absolutely.
Ooh, shots fired.
Wow.
Costco at least.
No way, dude. Costco has nice products. And the other thing is, like, so this is analogous to people buying only fortified wine, only malt liquor. And I think it's really incumbent on everybody who really loves the flower game and the weed game to continue this education. This is why I started one of my shows where I go and buy products off of stores. We never discuss cannabinoid percentages, and we talk about the aesthetics of smoking. How does it look? How does it smell? How does it feel? What does the trim look like? We get into it with a microscope to look at the trichomes. And we're trying to teach people that there's so much more than just, getting effed up, which is what so many people are looking for. What we're really trying to do is get high. Getting effed up is an escape, and getting high is where you get activated and you can actually navigate your life better. And so that's something that I think we all need to just keep pushing for.
The amount of people that do testing shop brands or the lab shopping, it's insane. Like it is a problem. Like we need to be going with the most accurate lab. We need to be going with the one that has, quality turnaround times and that are close to you and that you're able to benefit in your community. Like going to the lab that's on the other side of the fucking state because you can get an extra 12%, you're a part of the problem. Literally.
Agreed.
You.
But isn't the consumer the bigger part of the problem? Because the consumer
because if you teach the consumer, yes, but if you teach them that doesn't exist, then no, it's our fault for letting the consumer teach us how to let our market go. That it's not real. If it was like, oh, all the consumers like cherry, so we find a way to get to cherry, fine. We're not finding a way to get to the highest THC. We're finding a way to lie to the system. If they were finding a way to get to higher THC, I would agree with you, right? So if the consumer wants higher THC, find it then. Fucking make it real. Do it. Spend the time. Do the business. You know what I mean? But that's not what's actually happening. They're lying.
I think it's easier. Different. I think it is easier said than done in these times when people are so strapped for cash and they're trying to get those dollars to stay afloat. So a lot of people are just going to be doing nefarious things like this and shopping for the best lab results. Like, unfortunately, that's the way the market is right now.
I know Alec Dixon and SD Labs are working with the state of California to institute universal testing standards. So they're actually they're trying to figure out how to implement that right now.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a huge service to the market. We need some reform. So
that would mean that the DCC would have to enforce on the labs, and so I seriously doubt that that's
luck, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's a pipe dream.
Well, I mean, yes and no, because if you gave specific regulations in regards to the labs and ISO standards actually upheld those, like locally, like those labs are already being held to stronger regulations than any of the rest of the businesses are because of their scientific laboratory standards that they have to uphold. So if we gave, as the state of California gave that as a part of like the standardization of what it meant in California to have those certifications, I think it would actually be a lot easier than it sounds, because it's not the weed police that's going to be upholding it. It's the actual science police, and most scientists in a lot of those situations, in laboratory situations, are aware that it's easier just to do the right thing up front, because the rest of it is just, you're going to get caught. Like, scientists know that. You know what I mean? Scientists know that, like, the paper trail to the truth is there.
I know they're working on trying to make it a standardized, uniform, lab regulations across each state and hopefully across the whole country. That is what is needed. I agree with Nicole.
Yes, indeed. We can keep it moving.
Yeah.
So he is the longest continuously operating retailer in the industry, also known in certain respective circles as Gucci Blanco, White Gucci, Kaiser Brose, the highest Republican. And if you're in West Hollywood considering cannabis tourism, you can call him El Presidente. But today he's out on the links, out there on those frosty greens, puffing it up, about to hit. What are you about to hit, man? You about to use your 9-iron, your 7-iron?
I mean, I'm at a double bogey.
Let me just tell you, whatever I hit is going to be winning. Okay, just know that.
All right. Y'all know who it is. Jason Beck, the winningest motherfucker with no handicap at all on the golf course next to his idol 45. What you got for us today, my man?
Oh yeah. Good morning, Rico. Hope everyone is having a fantastic start to their week. Happy Monday. And today my story is a follow-up story from a story I covered last week, because as I predicted, this shit was fake news. Because the Florida steps in to put a kibosh on the Circle K marijuana plans. Florida is pumping the brakes on plans to allow consumers to purchase marijuana at select gas stations. The state's health department told the Washington Examiner that Florida has not approved the deal between Circle K and Green Thumb Industries. The cannabis company announced on Wednesday that it will sell medical marijuana products via the space rented out from Circle K stores, Florida, according to a press release. This project has been approved by the state. The department said Florida has never approved a medical marijuana treatment center to operate out of a gas station. Let me repeat that, because this shit is in quotes, you guys. Florida has never approved a medical marijuana treatment center to operate out of a gas station. Under the partnership between Circle K and Green Thumb Industries, the cannabis company would sell its products to outlets branded as Rise Express, which would be set up from the space leased out to them from the Circle K Express outlets. We'll also have independent entrances and will not have walk-through access to the Circle K store. They will be adjacent to the Green Thumb Industries spokesperson told the Washington Examiner. As with all Rise dispensary locations in Florida, the opening of Rise Express stores remains subject to regulatory approval, and sales will be exclusively to Florida. Patients will have a valid medical marijuana identification card, the spokesperson said, and roughly 700,000 people in Florida carry a medical cannabis card, according to the state's health department. But I'll tell you what, as I said, this was total fake news and a big ass puff piece that everybody fell for, because you know what? You cannot go to the gas station and buy weed. You can only buy gas, or you have to go to a real store and buy some real gas like this. And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News.
Real gas can never be bought at the gas station, right, Jason?
That's right. That is right.
So
Gas station Jason.
In Colorado, Native Roots actually has a gas station that has a dispensary. So that was one of the reasons why I kind of watched this go and was like, well, maybe. Native Roots has one, I want to say it's like in Durango, but they purchased an old gas station and it had like a restaurant convenie in it. And they turned the restaurant convenie into the dispensary. The gas, you just go right up to the little window. It's not in the same building, but I have seen them. But it definitely didn't seem like something that was going to happen in Florida by any means.
Jason,
go ahead,
question for you. When the original story came out last week, did they say they were going to sell THC products, or were they pushing CBD?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they were. It was not. Oh, we're just going to sell hemp and Delta 8. This was no.
They were
going
to
to medical marijuana store, and we're going to have weed. You can go and buy a hot dog and a corn dog all at the same time.
Yeah, they were going to partner with one of the licensed businesses.
And the Glizzy.
And a Glizzy, that's right. The Glizzy is a new strain of pre-rolls coming out from Rise Express.
Original Glizzy.
Yes.
Oh.
I knew when we discussed the story last week that I thought it would be confusing to the consumers if they're, we're telling everybody go to legitimate dispensaries and then suddenly you can buy it in a gas station. I thought that was a little confusing for the consumer, but now that I see in Florida, it seemed like if they would be allowed to just expand into all these gas stations, that seems unfair to like Black farmers in particular who only got one license. It's like, how can they just spread ubiquitously across
and it was
the state?
And it was
Florida
GTI that was the partnership to Green Thumb Industries, which is one of the largest of all of the fucking monsters out there. So GTI would have just showed up and been also in all of the gas stations. It would have been just the most fucked up, like disproportionate.
Do we think this was all just a PR stunt?
100% PR stunt. 100% PR stunt.
I'm asking, what's the bonus of this? What did they get out of this pretending to be able to go into gas stations?
I don't think it was a PR stunt. I think they honestly think that they could because this is the GTI is also has partnerships with some of the companies that are selling a lot of the other products in the gas stations. And like, I think that this was an effort that maybe they knew wasn't going to go as far as they had hoped, but like, I think they're actually trying to push this because it's not far off from the same conversation that was being had with them about CBS. Right? Like that's a real conversation that they're having. I've sat at boardroom tables. I know that's a real fucking conversation about their Delta 8 products and that sort of stuff. So
you think it was a red herring?
Right. But I would think their legal team, GTI, is smart enough to know THC products aren't just selling on a gas station.
But they weren't trying to do that. But that's not what they were trying to do. They were going to put it next door. They were not going to put it in the same store. They were very clear about that. They were trying to partner with the footprint of the Circle K's and to be able to say, hey, if you go and find a Circle K, you can also find weed. That's all they were trying to do. And they were very conscious that it was going to be in a different building. The original proposal had nothing to say about it being like next to the fucking candy or the chips. It was going to be next door and it was going to be a footprint share.
Circle K has excellent hot wings, by the way.
Well, I think it is important to note too that Circle K, the company that owns, I think I talked about, I forget the name of it, but it was like something like Custy Turd or something like that was the name of the company.
Yeah.
Custy?
Custy Turd, something like that. But anyway, so that company that owns Circle K is a very, very large investor in a delivery service up in Canada. I forget, it's something like gas and fuel or something like fire and something.
Couche-tard.
Yeah,
Couche-tard.
I just looked it up.
Yes,
COUCHE dash TARD.
Yeah.
Yep. Couche-tard is the
The
Circle
real
K owner.
enunciation too.
Couche-tard.
Couche-tard.
COUCHETARD.
Yes.
Sorry.
Couche-tards. Yes.
I apologize.
Couche-tard and GTI were going to merge, but that brand is cannabis friendly. That company Couche-tard is open to that conversation. That's the reason why I don't think it was a full puff piece. I think it's genuine efforts, but I think that they at some point probably knew it was going to make it as far, but kept pushing the agenda anyways.
I think it was a total puff piece because they knew that the state of Florida had not approved.
Then why'd you cover it? This is supposed to be a real news show, Jason. I said, then why'd you cover it? This is supposed to be a real news show, Jason.
It was, and everyone was talking about it. Everyone was talking about it. It was the hottest story that was on the streets that day.
Sounds like it wasn't real news.
Fake
news. Oh shit, Jason Beck, land of the fake news.
It's real until it's fake, right, Jason?
That's right. That's right. It's real until it's not.
We going to halftime yet?
Yeah, I think it's time for our commercial break. Thank you all. Let's pay a bill.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of Angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles. The thoughts and opinions of general shade thrown on the High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, territory, or its authorities. Views expressed in this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Our sponsors do not imply, constitute the endorsement by us or the expression of any opinion whatsoever any speaker on stage. If you're an easily offended person, the show's probably not for you. Also, you should probably smoke some more weed.
Oh yeah, a little chime sound. Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention like to get High at 9 for 10% off your full order. Chime me out.
Oh, yeah. She's well known in DC circles for cooking up excellent and baking delicious treats. But tonight, this feisty redheaded conservative with proven long-form Mayflower roots is also going to be proven she has what it takes to get locked up for civil disobedience. Coming to the stage next is the founder of Panoptic Strategies and our very own Washington insider, Gretchen Gailey. What you got for us today?
Well, I'm hoping not to get locked up later because I got to go home to feed my dogs. But I'm very excited. This came for me over the weekend, my DC medical card. It only took like 4 months, and you can't see, but on the bottom it says self-certified, something only you can do in DC. So that was big excitement. My headline today is coming from Marijuana Moment, and it's kind of related to Rico's. Biden has no intention of extending marijuana pardons to help people jailed for selling it, he suggests. President Joe Biden on Friday again touted his recent marijuana pardons proclamation, but indicated that he has no intention of granting relief to people who are in prison for selling cannabis. He said, "I'm keeping my promise that no one should be in jail for merely using or possessing marijuana. None. And the records which hold up people from being able to get jobs and the like should be totally expunged. Totally expunged." Then he said, "You can't sell it. But if it's just use, you're completely free." The comments came as activists are planning a protest, including civil disobedience, at the White House for Monday, aimed at calling attention to those who are left behind by Biden's existing cannabis clemency action. It's not clear if the president's latest remarks simply describe the scope of his current marijuana pardons, which came alongside a separate move to review the drug's current scheduling status under federal law, or if they are an indication he is ruling out broadening the scope of clemency relief in the future. The latter scenario would be a great disappointment to the advocates behind the planned White House protest. Those groups, including Students for Sensible Drug Policy, Last Prisoner Project, DCMJ, and others, sent a letter to Biden this month calling his moves to date a great first step, but saying they did nothing to address the thousands of federal cannabis prisoners currently incarcerated. Indeed, the clemency only impacts about 6,500 people who've committed the federal possession offense and those who violated the law in Washington, D.C. The U.S. Sentencing Commission detailed the demographics of those who received a pardon in a recent analysis. Multiple groups, including immigrants and those who've been charged with selling marijuana, were excluded from the presidential pardon. There are an estimated 2,800 people currently in federal prison for marijuana convictions that aren't limited to simple possession. The advocate said, "We would prefer not to have to escalate our protests. However, your administration has thus far refused to release our incarcerated neighbors, friends, and family members, and it is therefore our moral duty to mobilize sufficient public attention to your lack of action on this urgent injustice that you promised to address. Under your watch, billions of dollars are being made for wealthy corporations, while real people, disproportionately people of color, are wasting their lives in cages." The activists have highlighted Biden's cannabis comments during the 2020 presidential campaign, in which he said, "Anyone who has a record should be let out of jail." Biden, for his part, though, said in his separate speech earlier this week that he is keeping his promise on marijuana with the current limited clemency move. I think Joe is typical Joe and can't remember what he said. He did say during the campaign that everyone should be let out of jail, and he is clearly not keeping that promise. So like I said earlier, I will be out there with folks trying not to get arrested, but if it comes down to it, that's what's going to happen. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
It looks like Sleepy Joe Biden can backpedal as good as Rico does on this, huh, Gretchen?
Well, Joe probably doesn't have the moves that Rico does, although Rico did break his leg trying to backpedal. So
yeah,
I don't break legs.
He pulled his Achilles tendon. That's right.
Achilles. Partially torn Achilles, but the fast twitch is still up front, baby.
I mean, but is anybody really surprised that Joe Biden has taken this stance? I mean, he's always been a prohibitionist. He was the author of the '93 crime bill. I mean, does anyone really expect any different?
No. It's hard to change old ways. Yeah. But
he's
it
80 years old.
Yeah, but it makes sense if we are rewarding people for selling cannabis right now, when cannabis should have never been made illegal or prohibited. You should let people out of prison who are selling cannabis, who are there for selling cannabis. If you're letting people sell cannabis now, you should let them out.
Agreed.
Let them out. Let them out. Free the plant. Free the people.
Deschedule or bust.
Yes.
I don't think this has anything to do with his current proclamation. I think this is Joe's stance. His stance isn't changing. And anyone who thinks that he is going to all of a sudden become woke with his cute little proclamation are going to be sadly disappointed. By what
and Jason can send Gretchen $100.
I'm waiting on my money.
That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with that. We're talking about mass pardons because it's happening in Kentucky right now.
It's not happening. You're on crack.
It is mass pardons, baby.
No mass pardons.
Hold on a second. I just can't wait for the governor of Massachusetts to do it because then that'll really be a mass pardon.
I can't wait to see anyone do it, Jason. But sadly, for once, I'm going to be sad.
That was a good dad joke. Even if they pardon one person, it's a mass pardon.
It's a mass pardon. That's right. Yeah. That's right. It would be a mass pardon.
It's fair.
Yep. I see the head shake, Gretchen. That's when you know I'm right.
You're not right. Never are you right. Find me a time you're right, Jason Beck.
I mean,
sigh.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that story, Gretchen. I love that. I love this story. But one visit to this office is sure to get you all access to all kinds of blue pills. All shapes, sizes, and colors are always included and welcome in this safe space. She's the Plants for Life CEO and a dual board certified physician, always promoting cannabis as medicine. And if you play your cards right, she'll mix some yellow ones with your blue ones to make a greener experience. That's right. It is none other than the Dr. Felicia Dawson.
Thank you, Jason Beck. Out on the golf course. Happy Monday, everyone.
Yeah.
My headline comes from CTV News. It's a sad story, but a very important one. Child dies after eating THC gummies Virginia mother charged with felony murder. A Virginia mother has been charged with felony murder and felony child neglect in the death of her 4-year-old son, who authorities believe ate a large amount of THC gummies. Detectives arrested Dorothy Annette Clements on Wednesday, and she's being held without bond, the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office said in a statement posted on Facebook. Felony murder is the accidental killing of a person in the commission of certain felonies. Court records didn't list an attorney for Clements. Clements' son, Tanner, was found unresponsive on May 6 and was taken to a hospital where he died 2 days later. Clements told police that only one gummy containing CBD, which does not cause a high, was left when her son accessed the jar. When she told poison control that the boy ate part of a gummy, she was reassured that he'd be okay, according to court documents. But the documents show that when police seized the empty jar, they learned that the gummies contain THC, the compound that gives pot its high, not CBD. Toxicology results show the child had extremely high levels of THC in his system. Documents state the detective wrote that the attending doctor reported that if the boy had received medical attention shortly after eating gummies, his death could have been prevented. Tanner Clements' death was ruled accidental, and the cause of death was Delta-8 tetrahydrocannabinol toxicity, according to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner's Central District Administrator, Lakeisha Johnson. Before she was charged, the mother said WUSA-TV that she had thought she had bought CBD gummies from a Fredericksburg store and had no idea that what she bought actually contained THC. She said the boy suffered from a cardiac episode and reported that it was determined her son had something odd with his heart. While some states have banned such products, others have worked to set limits on them. Virginia lawmakers grappled during this year's legislative session, with how to regulate products with THC, aiming in particular to rein in the sales of items with Delta-8, but they failed to reach a consensus amid fierce pushback from the hemp industry. A state task force has been meeting to reconsider options for next year's session. The Food and Drug Administration warned last year that products containing Delta-8 THC have not been evaluated or approved by the FDA for safe use in any context. From December 2020 to February 2022, the agency said it received 104 reports of adverse events involving products containing Delta-8 THC. National Poison Control Centers received over 2,000 cases of exposure to such products during the same period, including one pediatric case coded with an outcome of death, according to the FDA. I have 3 points to make about this article. Number one, no one has ever died of cannabis or THC. It is unlikely that the direct cause of death in this child is Delta-8 THC. The endocannabinoid system of children is not fully developed, and they can tolerate higher doses of cannabis than adults can without the same levels of intoxication. I suspect that there were other chemicals in the product that the child ingested. Number two, toxicology lab tests can only pick up substances that they were designed to pick up. One lab tech said that a Delta-8 product analysis that he saw looked like a rainforest with multiple spikes that were unknown and unidentifiable. That means that other chemicals are being created or there are other residual chemicals that are present in the final product. Number three, I suspect Virginia legislators will have ammunition to move forward with regulation of the hemp industry, given the child's death. If you're going to allow synthetically derived Delta-8 THC from CBD or hemp to be on the market, it must be laboratory tested, period. Or we're going to have more bad outcomes like this. This is Dr. Felicia Dawson reporting for the High at 9 News. What are your thoughts?
This is clearly showing how prohibition leads to harm for people. This is like spice and K2 overdoses that were happening in the early 2000s. When we get people naturally occurring, safe, organic cannabinoids, nobody dies, no one is harmed.
Delta-8, I told you, public enemy number one.
I often talk about the actual synthesis process from a scientific perspective. It's really important to understand the different types of chemicals that they can use to synthesize the cannabinoids and convert CBD into Delta 8. And some of them are sulfuric acid. And there's definitely some really genuine concerns in regards to the processing of these products. And the reason why, like, we shouldn't have this product on the market that's not going through the same fucking rigorous testing that all the other stuff is. Like, it just shouldn't be on the market like this. Like, I
Exactly.
agree. It's not Delta 8 as a Delta 8. It's Delta 8 being manufactured and all the other fucking chaos that comes with it.
Exactly.
Look,
And to boot, I would be willing. I want to see the package. I want to see the physical container of this. We don't see it in the ad or in the article, but I'd like to see what the physical container is to see what percentage it said that it had versus what it actually, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many variables on that too. Like, was it a real just CBD product that had a low Delta 8, or was it one of those crazy ones like 5,000 milligrams?
Dr. Felicia, so should people assume that if they consume a Delta 8 product that they would test dirty on a drug test? Because I thought they were only testing for Delta 9 as opposed to Delta 8 when you said that the boys' THC system.
Well, clearly the test is able to pick up Delta 8 and probably 9 too. They're able to pick up most of the tetrahydrocannabinols now. So what they're not going to pick up though are the chemicals that you used probably to make it, or other compounds that you're creating new that it can't pick those things up. It's just like go ahead.
The Delta 8 does test the metabolites that have the same molecular weight when it actually goes through Delta 8. There are some people that would say Delta 8 would be a false positive because technically the test is supposed to test for Delta 9, but the way it metabolizes, it would still show up.
Yeah, it's so
Okay.
close. It's showing up. Yeah,
Everything's messed up, huh?
Got to regulate.
Crazy.
You got to regulate. You got to regulate this. You really have to regulate
100. Oh man, thank you so much for that
Thank
story,
you.
Dr. Felicia, and everyone for joining in on that conversation. I definitely think this is something that we're going to continue to have to talk about. But up next, we have a fellow dope dad, former cop, turned cool guy. Now he smokes joints instead of brings his baton everywhere. I appreciate that about him. And if you get a chance, get this guy high because he's fucking hilarious. Chris Eggers, what do you have for us today?
Happy Monday. Apologize about maybe I have a cool radio voice. I'm a little sick, but appreciate the intro. So, my article today comes out of the Buffalo News, but wanted to touch on sort of the tail end of this article, not necessarily the beginning, but I'll go right into it. Burglars hit marijuana sticker shop in Amherst. Thieves stole $2,600 worth of product, breaking into a marijuana sticker shop in Amherst overnight. The police received an alarm call. They showed up a few minutes later, and the thieves were gone, essentially. That's the first half of this article. The second half, though, talks about the store, Green Vision Wellness, and similar sticker shops operating in a gray area in the cannabis space in New York. They claim that their customers pay for stickers and receive marijuana as a gift as part of the transaction. Now, Green Vision Wellness previously had 4 locations, and now, according to its website, has 3. Authorities cracked down on sticker shops in some communities in the state of Office and Cannabis Management earlier this year, ordered Green Vision Wellness to stop the unlicensed selling of cannabis. Owner David Zale Jr., 29 of Lancaster, is facing felony charges for criminal possession of cannabis following his February 4th arrest by the Cheektowaga police. So sticker shops obviously are not new, but this is a recent article in the last day or so. Curious what you guys think about sticker shops. Are they going to transition? Are they not? Is the Office of Cannabis Management really going to drop the hammer and try to shut these shops down? Curious what you guys think. Thanks for letting me contribute on a Monday. Apologize, getting over a bit of a cold.
Thank you for covering this one, Chris. I covered this story on our last show, and these guys said that they're going to keep on doing what the fuck they're doing. So they were asking to get hit at some point. They said that they don't care. It's the cost of doing business, and they're going to continue doing what they were doing. They literally said that shit.
Wild.
I mean, it's not that wild. There was an entire like 20
Yeah,
years of California where that was just like the way of it. Like people would be like, well, yeah, we got shut down. We're gonna go move somewhere else. We're like, someone robbed us. Blah, blah, blah. We lost everything. And it was just like that was like the
It was
continuum.
like whack-a-mole. It was like
It's why
whack-a-mole.
Jason
Well,
Beck's so
totally.
durable.
There was
Yes.
there was
It's very true.
7 locations. They're doing the same shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was listening to LAPD talk about this a couple weeks ago in Sacramento, and they were talking about pop-ups that happen in the city, and they just like their stance is don't deal with them because they don't have the resources. There's like a ton of people out there. They know it's going to be, you know, some stuff popping off if they try to shut it down. So their stance is essentially like, hey, you know, somebody said whack-a-mole, exactly what they were saying. So
I feel like a lot of it's going to become like death by paper cut. You know what I mean? Like where it's just going to be like citation after citation after citation kind of thing. That'll be a lot of, especially the states that are getting regulation. It'll just become one of those things that they have to like cite you until it's like grand theft, you know, like, and then they're like, all right, well,
one of the new sort of tactics is law enforcement's going after the property owner. Pretty heavily too. So
yeah,
they're hoping
and that's an easy one. If you start jamming after the people that have the bank loans on those buildings, you'll get somebody out of there like that. Like that's the real trick. Get their power shut off or get their landlord to kick them out.
They were saying they would even pay electricians to keep the power shut back on.
Don't you have squatters' rights here in California? You can't.
Fuck no.
Yeah, there's no eviction. You can't evict right now.
Bro, not for
We're still in a pandemic.
Commercial.
Yeah,
not
it's
for
all the same
commercial.
thing. It's
Shut
a
the
pandemic.
fuck up.
Yeah, but I live here too,
Pandemic.
right?
Yeah.
Rico, I live here too.
The trap will not die.
Exactly.
All right,
It's
we can
just the
keep
way
moving.
it is. Let's roll.
Things will never be the same.
Oh.
All right. He's an immortal cannabis wizard with Transylvanian roots, chronicled globally by scribes throughout history for doing his damnness to continue the work of the original merry pranksters of the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. He's also got a Hogwarts PhD in tripping balls, is the co-host of What's Good, and has dedicated the last 30 years of his life to cannabis sales, genetics, and cultivation. Up next, y'all know who it is. It's the Count himself, Matthew St. Germain.
Greetings and happy Monday. We're pretty short on time, so I'm going to go quick here. There's a 12-time NBA star making auto parts with plants and then predicting all plastics will be made from cannabis. I envision a future where the Fords, the GMs, the Stellantises of the world take plastics out of their automobiles and infuse them with industrial hemp to replace those plastics, thus reducing their carbon footprint, says Isaiah Thomas, NBA star, cannabis entrepreneur, and CEO of One World Products, the largest black-controlled licensed hemp and cannabis producer in Colombia. While this may sound innovative even in 2022, hemp cars were actually a reality some 80 years before that. In 1941, Henry Ford presented a car prototype with a body made mostly from, plant-derived materials like soybeans, wheat, hemp, and flax. Taking it even further, Ford asked Rudolf Diesel, inventor of the diesel engine, to develop a special, unique propulsion system for this car. The vehicle would run on vegetable and hemp oil, and a big reason was he wanted farmers to be able to control their own commodities and not be subject to the oil industry. These days, Thomas's company is working on hemp car parts as well, per a recent agreement with Stellantis. Stellantis is the 6th largest automaker worldwide, owner of Chrysler, Citroën, Dodge, Fiat, Jeep, Peugeot, and other portfolio brands. One World Products will develop and supply hemp-based bioplastic components for cars' interiors and exteriors. According to a recent report, hemp isn't only a more environmentally friendly option to traditional plastics, which would help curb the massive impact of the auto industry on CO2 emissions, but it's also stronger than steel, lighter than glass, and it's one of the strongest fibers ever made. Furthermore, many hemp plastics are fully biodegradable and non-toxic, making their production carbon neutral. While hemp material space is not very crowded currently, a few other companies have recognized its potential as well. In Argentina, a brand called Chanvra makes the most beautiful hemp eyewear you've ever seen. Similarly, Nebraska's Hemp 3D, which also makes eyewear, recently released a chess set made with hemp. And US-based Santa Cruz Shredder. I was about to pull my shredder out. I lost it. They use hemp plastics to make paraphernalia, including joint tips. In 2019, the CEO of CBD company Elixinol Global, Paul Benheim, launched the hemp plastic company with the intention of using waste from the former CBD production to make hemp bioplastics. The Hemp Foundation does something similar. Meanwhile, Sana Packaging uses hemp and reclaimed plastics to make sustainable packaging for cannabis businesses. Examples like these abound, and one thing is clear. The planet needs sustainable plastics, and these early entrants stand to benefit from this trend. We have to understand that the plant was put to sleep here in the industry so other synthetics, mainly nylon at first, and medicines could grow. And we need to understand how the U.S. works from a business point of view and give credit to those businesses for the propaganda that they use to leverage against the plant and the misinformation. Business-wise, they did their thing. But this is the beauty of the plant. It's here to stay. And the plant is saying, hey, petrochemical plastics, your time is up. One thing I'd like to add real quick, just molecularly, petrochemicals are hydrocarbons, which is hydrogen and carbon atoms bonded together. Plants are made of carbohydrates, which are carbon and hydrogen, just the other way around. So you can make plastics that you can make out of hydrocarbons out of carbohydrates. You can also break down hydrocarbons with mushrooms that have evolved to break down carbohydrates in the forest. I'd love to hear what the rest of y'all have to say about this.
All right. So
go ahead,
go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say this.
I was going to say,
I'm just going to say that this is fantastic news. I've always said from the beginning of this that the focus on the hemp industry needs to be on creating these types of uses, because that is truly going to be the new American industrial revolution, and the fact that we need to bring manufacturing jobs back to our country. And so I applaud these companies for doing that. Bravo.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest issues in regards to finding buyers, right? Like I've had several clients that are hemp producers that, you know, when you're making that decision, when you're going to build your farm, and you're like, are we going to, you know, plant for oil or for fiber? Because those are two very different plants. And it's important to understand that you can't just be like, oh, let's juice this part and let's make bricks out of this part. It doesn't work that way. You have to make a conscious choice when you set up your farm to have fiber producing plants or oil producing plants. And obviously right now, everyone's sucking D8s. Sorry, but like, so everyone's making the oil producing plants. I stopped myself, guys. How proud. I think I get points for today. Everyone's producing the oil plants, growing the oil plants. So we're not getting a ton of fiber, because the ones that did go fiber early on, they lost their ass because there was no one buying fiber, right? And so you want to talk about logistics of moving fucking hectares worth of acres and acres and acres worth of product from point A to point B with no fucking buyer. So like everybody made the hard pivot to go to oil because they'd had no options for buyers. We need more manufacturers like this to step up and have production facilities to turn this material into products so we can have more buyers, because then we can make the pivot. Because much like we talked about earlier, the consumer is dictating what the fuck we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've never been a fan of Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons. I really hate their guerrilla tactics against my Michael Jordan and the Bulls. But
damn,
he is right on point. He is right on point with this right here. It's like, we have to get more processing facilities so we can make things from hemp. It's not all about just the CBD. It's really about making things and making our environment more sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for a lot of those farmers though that did their first like rollout, because I don't know if anybody knows any farmers. I'm not talking about growers. I'm talking about farmers. Okay. Like there's a big difference. A farmer is like by the hair of their chinny chin chin, barely making it most of the time. Like most big farmers are either so subsidized by the government that they're like Monsanto fucking garbage, or they're barely making it. Right. And so these farmers that are turning to hemp, a lot of those people were already like conscious humans, right? Those farmers don't make any money. If you're a conscious human being and you farm food, like you broke as a joke. And like, I'm sorry that that's the reality, but it's because the consumer, right, is dictating a lot of that. And there's not enough people that are willing to pay what it takes to have the quality food. So imagine pivoting your whole by the hair of your chinny chin chin life to a hemp farm so that you could produce products because you know this is going to save the fucking world, and then almost losing or maybe losing your farm because you made no money because there's no buyers.
I mean, just like we don't appreciate teachers, we don't appreciate farmers, and you shut down all the farmers, we don't eat. And so America's priorities need to change. We need to stop rewarding big corporations and focus on our teachers and our farmers.
Yes. If you ate today, thank a farmer.
If you ate today, that's right. If you smoke weed today, thank a farmer. Only if they're indoor, though, because otherwise you probably shouldn't be smoking it.
If they're indoor, it's a grower. I say that's not a farmer. That's a grower.
It's an
If you're
indoor farm. Indoor farm.
It's your
PHARM.
grower.
PHARM.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jason Beck voted for outdoor to win the Emerald Cup.
Indoor growers farm.
I did do
Did
that.
you-
I ran the whole campaign for it. It's called the Buy Better Gas campaign.
Not at Circle K.
Yes, definitely not at Circle K. No.
Nicole, I do have some friends who are farmers, who have gone down this road. I mean, and the folks I know, they're down North Carolina, tomato farmers. And they're like, we want to try and do this. They have not gone crazy all in. They've only set aside
Smart little baby portion
of land. Number one, because they needed to learn how to grow hemp, because they didn't just figure out, we'll make this work. But on two, it was because the state is not behind them as much as you would hope. There's not the processing. They can see the writing on the wall. They're like, we want to do these sort of things, but it's just not there yet.
Where are they from? Where are they from, Gretchen?
What part of North Carolina?
Yeah.
Kind of outside Greensboro.
Yeah, right on.
All right.
That road.
So also, I have an idea. If anybody wants to fund me on this, I want to get some mobile processing facilities and just drive around areas where there's a gang of hemp and help do all the breakdowns. So I think that's missing. Like they have that for food. Like there are people that go through the food areas and that they have like the large equipment that's mobile and it comes there and it's able to break things down and you're able to use the equipment rather than have to buy all of this shit. That doesn't really exist for the hemp farmers in the same way. So
support your hemp farmers. And we are now at the top of the hour. Thank you all out there for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us yet again. It is always getting high at 9 with us again at 9 a.m. Pacific. You can catch us weekdays at 9 a.m. Pacific at high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters tuning in daily to the live news feed of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. A very special thanks to all of our haters out there. May you never find enough Pepto and Imodium to remedy the constant flow of diarrhea coming out of your mouths. Thank you to True Classic, Bella Flor Golf Tournament, and LAXCC, and our vetted industry correspondents out there tuning in from all over the globe to give us and bring much needed variety of perspectives and respected opinion to the headlines that we cover. Our production team, 3 is 4 Media, making us look and sound amazing on the daily, and Jaja Simone holding things down for us in Clubhouse. And I hope we got the sound fixed a little bit better there. Sorry, y'all, but see us on YouTube. And finally, thank you to Cannabis Sativa, the mother plant herself, for giving us a reason to do this every morning. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, and you've all been tuned in to another episode of High at 9 News. I love you all, and please remember, when you go out in the world today and live life, life ain't giving you no place else to turn. You can always turn the fuck up, and I hope Gretchen has video of her getting arrested tonight. I love you.
Oh yeah.
I'll do my
best. Remember the speech.
Yes.
Remember to stretch, Gretch. Shut the fuck up.
Don't call her Gretch. She will stab you digitally.
Thanks all. Happy Monday.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.